Hello, this is Chapter 11, Lesson 3 on Measures of Variation. So the pages that you're going to need in your math book are going to be pages 829 through 832. You need to make sure that you have a pen and pencil handy, so go ahead and get a pen out so you can correct your work. And I also want to remind you to be active in your learning. When you're watching this video, it's important that you do pay attention and that you work out the examples on your own prior to you watching me work them out. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Two things that we're going to learn in this lesson are how to find the first and third quartiles and how outliers affect a data set. We're going to go ahead and skip the bottom of this first page and we're going to go straight to the very next page. So I want you to look at the key concept where it reads measures of variation. Now today's lesson we're going to be dealing with measures of variation. When you're going to be talking about these, you actually have to find all four of these things that are highlighted. So it requires a lot of work, but the work that you have to do to find these answers really is not that bad. So I'm going to start first with when you get a set of numbers. Now you'll notice that my screen here is a little bit different than your screen because I went ahead and took out all the writing that is over in this area right here that I just circled because I want you to watch how we would go about finding the range, the interquartile range, first and third quartiles and quartiles using the information from the beginning versus it already being all the way thrown out there at you guys. So over in the left side in your work zone, so we're now looking over on the left side of the work zone area, I would like for you to go ahead and write steps and underline it. So when you're going to be asked to find measures of variation, these are the steps that I want you to follow, and I feel that the order that I'm asking you to do them is going to make things a little bit more understandable for you. So step one, you need to order your numbers. That means put your numbers in order from least to greatest, just like we did on our previous lesson. Now you'll notice in the example that's provided here in the middle of this page, you'll notice that the numbers have already been put in order for you. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to find the range of the numbers. So that's the first vocabulary word that we're going to be talking about, and it's this one right here that I just put a purple box around. So a range is the difference between the greatest and the least data values. So when you hear the word and see the word difference, that means you're going to subtract. So the greatest data value at the set of numbers that we have down here is 8. That's our largest number. And the smallest one, or the least data value, in this example is a 0. So what you would do to find the range for this example is you would do 8 minus 0, and on this one you're going to get an 8. So the range for this set of numbers is 8. The next thing you're going to do is we're going to find the median. We're going to find the middle number, the median, smack dab in the middle for this entire set of numbers. Now I'm going to go ahead and erase my boxes that I drew here. Oops. Let me fix this here, these lines. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and find our median number. Now there's several different ways that you can actually find the median number. I've shown you the rainbow way. I've shown you where you can cross your numbers like the first and last number off and keep crossing off the first and last. Whatever method works well for you is the method that you guys can go ahead and use. So I'm going to go ahead and just do the crossing out method on this example here. So I'm going to cross out my first number and my last number. Now I'm going to do it again. Cross out the first and the last. The first and the last. The first and the last. You kind of get the idea. First, last, first, last, first, last. Now look at my middle numbers. I happen to have 2 of them right here, which is the 3 and the 4. So when you're finding the median and you have 2 middle numbers, 2 median numbers, remember what you have to do is you have to find the mean of them, which means we're going to add them up together and divide by 2. 3 plus 4 gives me 7. 7 divided by 2 is going to end up giving me 3.25, or 3 5/10, or you could even put 3.5 if you'd like. So what we're going to do here So what I went ahead and did is I showed you where the median would be located for the set of numbers. And it's shown for you in the book. It's going to be between the 3 and the 4. But what I would like for you to do is right above that median, go ahead and write 3.5 so that we remember and we know what that median number was for the entire data set. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to then find the first quartile. Now, the definition in this book that's highlighted in yellow for you, where it says first and third quartiles, it reads the first and third quartiles are the medians of the data values less than the median and the data values greater than the median, respectively. So it took me like several times to read that definition for me to truly understand what exactly it was they wanted me to do here. So I went ahead and I actually did some research to come up with an easier way to get you guys to understand this. So the way that you're going to find your first quartile is basically it's the median of the first half of your numbers. So for example, think about if I were to give you a full sheet of notebook paper and I told you to fold it in half. So when you unfold it, you have two halves, right? You have the left side, the right side. So now go ahead and fold it in half again. If I said fold it a second time in half, if you were to unfold your piece of paper, your piece of paper will now have 4 chunks in it, or 4 sections. You divide it up into fourths. That's what we're doing here with quartiles. Think about a quarter, or think of a quarter. In a school, a quarter is 1/4 of the entire school year. So we have first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. Think about how many quarters you need to make a whole dollar. You need 4 quarters to make a whole dollar. If you think of a quarter after 3 o'clock, let's say, that's 3:15. Every quarter on a clock is 15 minutes, and when you put all the quarters together, you're going to get an entire hour. So when we're talking about quarters, we're talking about 1/4 of the total data set. So the easiest way for you to find the first quartile is this. In step 3, I told you to go ahead and find the median, and you can see that it's indicated on your paper, and I showed you over here on my screen. So I'm going to go ahead and just put a line right here where my median is going to be in this green color. So now our first quartile is going to be the median of the first half of my numbers. So this is the first half of my numbers right here that I just circled. I want to find the middle number of what I have circled for the first half. And as soon as I do, that's going to give me my first quartile. So you can use whatever strategy you want to use to find the median. For the first half, you could do rainbow again. You can cross them out. I'm going to go ahead and just cross them out like I have been. So I'm going to cross out my first and last number, my first and last number, my first and last number. And then once again, boom, we now are stuck with 2 numbers in the middle. So to find the median of these 2 numbers, remember, you're going to end up doing 1 plus 2 divided by 2. So we end up getting 3 over 2, which is the same thing as 1.5 or 1.5. The median is the number that's going to be between the 1 and the 2. And think about what's in the middle of 1 and 2, the number 1.5. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and erase all the markings that I did, but our first quartile is going to be between the 1 and the 2, and that's located right over here. So I'm going to go ahead and fix my screen so it looks a little bit more like yours. So here you can see the way the book is indicating where the first quartile is they're just using Q for quartile and 1 for the first quartile. So above that Q1, if you could just do me a favor and go ahead and write 1.5. So this way we just kind of remember what we found the first quartile number to be. Now we're going to find the second quartile. And I wrote second here. It's really the third quartile. So basically, let's go ahead and fix that word right here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to find the third quartile, not the second quartile, because the second quartile, think about it, is your median. This one right here, the smack dab in the middle. So let's go ahead and change this to second quartile. And the second, and I did it again. Let's change it to third quartile. Sorry, guys, third. All right, there we go, third quartile, which is the median of the second half. So go ahead and get that copy down. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do the same exact thing that we just did to find the first quartile. Now we need the third quartile. So I'm going to circle the second half of my numbers right there, like that. And I'm going to find the median of that second half of my numbers. So I'm going to cross out the first and last number, first and last, and right there. Now, my median is going to be right between the 6 and the 7. I think you've picked up on the pattern that basically what we need is we need to find the number that's smack dab in the middle between 6 and 7. So hopefully at this point you could realize that that number is going to be 6.5. So you can see that I went ahead and cleared off my, my screen a little bit to make it a little bit neater looking. And we indicate where the third quartile is going to be with a Q and then the number 3. So now basically, if you think about this, we just chunked up our numbers into fourths. So if you look at this, this is our first quartile right here, that set of numbers. And then we've got this guy right here, and then this guy like this, and then this guy like this. This is where we kind of broke it up into fourths because we were breaking it up into fourths. And those quartile marks is basically where you would take it and just kind of cut the numbers up. All right, so now we're not done yet because we have one more vocabulary word here. This is the interquartile range. Let's talk about the word inter. Inter means like inside, right? So they want the inter, like the inside quartile ranges. Well, this is sort of on the outside. Oops, let me fix that. These numbers right here are kind of on the outside, and these numbers over here are kind of on the outside because they're on the ends. So when we're talking about the interquartile range, what they're wanting us to do on this one is they want the inside ones. These guys right here, the ones that are in red. So this is considered to be our interquartile range. So on this one here, and it does tell you it's the distance between, so right now we're looking at this vocabulary word right here. This is the distance between the first and third quartiles of the data set. So distance means let's count how far away we are from the first, the lowest to the highest. So the numbers that we're going to use for the interquartile range, so this is step 6. So let's go ahead and write that down, interquartile range, which the book is calling it IQR. We're going to end up subtracting. So one thing we forgot to do is to write what quartile 3 is. So I'm going to go ahead and put that at 6.5. So what we're going to do is in our interquartile, remember I had put a box around these numbers right here. This is the inside of our quartiles, the inner quartile, so it's between the Q1 and the Q3 that we indicated here. So the largest number that we have here is a 6. The smallest number we have, and I got the 6 from this one right here, and the smallest one is right there, which is the 2. So we're going to go ahead and subtract those two numbers, and we end up getting 4. So the range, the distance between the inner quartiles between the largest and the smallest one is a distance of 4. All right, let's go ahead and go to the first example. So now this one's already done for you, so I'm going to go through and explain it again to you guys, but it's really important because after this example, you're going to have to try to do this one all on your own. Okay, so on this guy right here, what you're going to do is says to find the measures of variation for the data. So they give you your data in your chart. So this information is right here in this table, not a chart, but a table. So they went ahead and already put our numbers in order. So you can see that they put them in order from 1, 8, 25, 30, 25, and 70. So they went ahead then and found the median, the middle number. So over here on the left, you don't have to write this down because you already have it again, but basically I went ahead and just reminded us of the steps that we have to take to find the measures of variation for this data. So we order the numbers, then we're going to find the range of the overall. Well, remember, the range on this one is the difference between the largest number, which is 70, and the smallest number, which is 1. So we would do to find the range, we would do 70 minus 1. And we get 69. So that happens to be our range for here. So then the next step is to find the median of the overall numbers. So if I'm going to sit there and do, let's say, the rainbow this time, if I connect the first and last, connect the next two, over here, you can see between these two numbers is where my median of my overall set is going to be. So they already went ahead and figured this out for us. They got 27.5. So we're going to go ahead, I'm going to go ahead and jot that down right here. It's 27.5. Now they did that, if you remember, and I'll write this down, but what they did is they did the 25 plus the 30, and they divided it by 2 because you have to find the mean. Well, 25 plus 30 is going to give you 45 divided by 2, and that's how they get their 27.5. I just didn't show you the actual division, but you would do 45 divided by 2, add a decimal and a 0, and you get your 27.5. So then it tells us to find our quartile. So let me go ahead and clean up my mess here. So already they showed us this is where the median is going to go, and it's important to sit there and put these little markings in between our numbers. Notice that they left some space between their numbers as well when they wrote them in order from least to greatest, because you want to be able to kind of do some writing near them and rearranging things. Okay, so going to step 4, which is find your quartiles. So we're going to find the first quartile. Remember, in order to find the first quartile, that's the median of the first half of your numbers. Here's the first half of my numbers. Well, look at this. There's only 3 numbers there, 1, 8, 25. The number that's in the middle is the number 8, and you can see that they indicated that with a Q1. So then don't forget to find your third quartile. The third quartile is the median of the second half of your numbers. Well, once again, you got a 30, a 50, a 70. The number smack dab in the middle between those is a 50. So you don't have to do any type of calculation in order to figure out what the third quartile is. All right, so let's go ahead and jot that stuff down here. So we found that our first quartile, and I'm just going to jot it down here, Q1, we found is 8, and then Q3, which is our third quartile, we found to be 50. Now we have to find our interquartile range. All right, so that means you're going to sit there on this one. You're going to find the inside quartiles here. So I'm going to draw a box to show you where my inside quartiles are. This is the inside of mine right here. These are our innies, okay? So look at the biggest number, that's 50. Look at the smallest number within that range, it's 8. 50 minus 8 gives us 42. So now we just found all our information. We found that our range, our overall range is 69. The median is 27.5. The first quartile is 8. The third quartile is 50, and our IQR, which is our inner quartile range, is 42. Now, they went ahead and wrote this in sentence form over here. So if you notice over in this area right here that I'm putting a box around this like pale pink color, they gave it to us in sentence form. Make sure you read your directions carefully, because if it's asking you to describe the measures of variation, then you would have to put it in sentence form. In this example, since it said just find the measures of variation for the data, I'm okay for this one that you just list them the way I did here. All right, so now you guys get to try this on your own. So try this on your own. Oops. What you're going to end up doing is I want you to pause the video, and then I want you to check your work. Now, I'm going to give you your little reminders again so you can see it on the screen for what you're going to do. First thing is put the numbers in order. You're going to then find the range. You're going to find the median. You're going to find your quartiles, which remember is like the median of the first half, and then the third quartile is the median of the second half. And then you're going to find your interquartile range, which is your IQR. All right, you guys, when you come back, you'll see everything all worked out, so let's see how you guys do. All right, let's see how you did. So the first thing I did is I went ahead and put my numbers in order from least to greatest. You can see that when I'm doing this, I'm actually crossing them out because I noticed that on your previous quiz or test that you guys had on our previous chapter, when you had to put things in order, you left some of the numbers out. So always cross them out after you've used them so you know that you have everything there. All right, so now on this one here, I'm going to go ahead and find my median. My range. So my range is the difference between my largest number and my smallest number. So my range here is going to be, I'm looking at the 71 and I'm looking at the 56. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 71 minus 56, and I'm going to end up getting for my range to be 15. So my range over here, I'm going to go ahead and list it. I'm going to write 15. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find my median. That's my number smack dab in the middle of my data. So whether you do crossing out or you do the rainbow method, it doesn't really matter. Your median for this one is going to be right over here. Let me choose a color. This is your median right here between the 60 and the 61. Now remember, to find the actual median, you have to add the two numbers together, divide by 2. When you do that, you're going to get 60.5. So our median is 60.5. Now I need to find my quartiles. So to find your first quartile, that is going to be the difference between, not the inner quartile. The first quartile is going to be the median of the first half of your numbers. Well, here's our first half of our numbers. Let me go ahead and erase my little box here. So these are the first half of my numbers right up there, okay? So the number that's in the middle, whether I cross them out, if I do, 56, I cross out the 56, then the 60, the 57, and the 59. There it is, 81, or 81. I don't know why I said that. 58. This is my first quartile number, my first quartile. So quartile 1 is, go ahead and write that, Q1 is 58. So now we're going to find the third quartile. So that's going to be the median of the second half of the numbers. So that's going to be this set of numbers right here. So the number that's in the middle between those is the number 64 right here. So that's quartile 3. So let's go ahead and write that over here on the left. All right, and then our last thing to find is our interquartile range. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your quartile 3 number and your quartile 1 number and subtract them. Quartile 3 number is the number 64. Quartile 1 number is the number 58. So we're going to go ahead and subtract those two numbers, and we end up getting 6. So our interquartile number is 6. So I know this requires a lot of work, but if you think about it, it really isn't too bad. It's just what you're going to have to do here, you guys, on these problems is really learn and memorize the steps and what you have to do to find all these numbers. Because it is a lot of work that way, but the work that you have to do isn't difficult. But it is what the hardest thing is for you to do is to remember everything that you're going to have to do for this type of problem. All right, so hopefully you got all that. So what I want you guys to do is we're going to do the second half of this lesson in the next video lesson, which you guys will be watching tomorrow night. So what I would like for you to do now is, if you look at your guided practice, you're going to do question number 1 only. Now, question number 1, you guys, has 4 parts, A, B, C, D, which is what we've been doing. So you're going to find the range, the median, the first quartile, third quartile, the interquartile range, and then it does say identify any outliers in the data. We're actually going to not do that question this time because I'm skipping outliers and teaching that in the next half of this lesson. So you're going to do questions, or you're going to do parts A through C on number 1. All right, that's all for now. We'll see you guys back in class.